is going on, guys? Thank you so very much for joining me right here for AEW Dynamite on Off the Script. It is Wednesday, April 22nd, 2020, and I wish, not only do I wish things for them to be back to normal, but man, I wish there was much more to talk about on the show tonight outside of the TNT Championship Tournament, which right now we are looking at the semi-finals of the TNT Championship Tournament. Outside of that, there really wasn't much to talk about on Dynamite tonight, so we'll try and do what we usually do and make this show seem more important than it really was tonight. We'll go over some certain scenarios, what I thought of Darby Allin and Sammy Geuvara in the opening match, what I thought of Dynamite building the entire show around Dustin Rhodes possibly retiring if he cannot beat Kip Sabian, what they're building with Dustin Rhodes in the tournament in general, and what AEW could possibly do as far as making this tournament a little less predictable. Now, I got a couple scenarios that I'm going to go over at the end of the show, so make sure you guys stay tuned and listen to what I have to say. Could we see Cody versus Lance Archer in the finals? Because that's the way the tournament seems to be shaping up. Could we see Darby Allin win the TNT Championship and go on to become that champion that I think all of us want to see him become? Does Dustin eventually lose to Lance Archer so he advances to the finals, or does Lance Archer get himself disqualified in the semifinals by beating Dustin so badly that it's going to prompt Cody and Lance Archer to not fight for the title at the pay-per-view, but Cody's going to fight for his brother's honor and take care of this badass, this monster known as Lance Archer. There's a couple of scenarios that I was thinking about tonight. We'll go over all of that when we talk about Dustin versus Kip Sabian, which was the main event of Dynamite tonight. And like I said, guys, I wish there was much more to talk about on Dynamite, but there really wasn't much as far as a show tonight on TNT. Thank you guys so much for joining me here on the podcast. I am JD. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on that bell for all notifications. Hit that thumbs up. I cannot begin to tell you how important it is to hit that thumbs up, man. It helps out not only me, the channel, but it helps out the video in the SEO search on YouTube. So make sure you guys go and hit that thumbs up. Greatly helps out the channel and the video. Follow me on social media at JD from NY206. That's on Twitter and Instagram. If you guys want to support the podcast via Patreon, you know how to certainly do that as well. Patreon.com/JD from NY206. And if you missed any of my content on the channel this week so far, going back to last weekend's Off the Script, everything you need is linked down below in the description of this very video. And the podcast today is brought to you by my good friends over at Audible, audibletrial.com/offthescript. I know you guys are listening to me because you're fans of AEW. And if you're fans of AEW, you might be interested in Jim Ross's new book, Under the Black Hat, which you guys can now get for free on Audible using our unique link, audibletrial.com/offthescript. 30 days free of the service and one free audiobook. That could be your choice, or it could be anything. They got over 200,000 choices to choose from on Audible's website, so make it count. You guys can sign up for free right now using the link, audibletrial.com/offthescript. And I want to thank them, as always, for being a partner of the podcast for 4 years strong. audibletrial.com/offthescript. Dynamite started off with Cody Rhodes sitting at a desk. I love these promos by Cody Rhodes. I really do. I really do. Also, little sidebar on Cody Rhodes. The WWE trademark for the Rhodes name has expired, and as soon as that name had expired, Cody Rhodes had filed for trademark on his own name. So I hope that all of that situation goes well so we could finally hear Justin Roberts call him Cody Rhodes and not simply just Cody. So I'm glad that might come to an end for him. So that's good news there. That was reported tonight on Twitter. I seen a news article floating around. Cody opened up the show. I love these promos by Cody because they always lend a serious tone to the show. And when Cody speaks and it's in this manner and You know, it's all dark and just epic looking and epic sounding. You know it kind of means something. So I really appreciate when he does this. Cody sitting at a desk talking about the wrestlers remaining in the TNT Championship Tournament. He touted each of them, including Kip Sabian's blue eyes. I'm sure Penelope Ford loves his blue eyes. Must have. Must have fallen in love with his blue eyes because they got married or engaged. And then he asked who he is. In these pressing times, has my sword been sharpened or have I not answered the call? Where do I fit into all of this, he said. Am I a 3-star general mid-card for life? Broke the throne because I was afraid to sit in it? You hear something enough times, it starts to feel comfortable, like old leather. Am I comfortable? He says he's going to face one of those men in the semifinals. He will answer the call. He talked about the history of pro wrestling on Warner Media on TNT. He said the history will show that roughly a year-old company, how well they're doing. They've added another major championship to AEW. He said there are those who are content to sit and just collect a paycheck, but those aren't the men remaining in the tournament. There's plenty of will in the tournament, he said. Now we find out who has enough of it. I love the line about being content and just there to collect a paycheck. I love that line because there's a lot of guys in this industry just doing just that. And I fucking hate that. I hate it as a fan. I would hate it even more if I was a promoter or someone in a leadership role. I hate that shit. I really do. What am I paying you for? Why would I pay somebody and not utilize them? And then I see them not really trying or coming up to me, asking me for a certain something. I would be so pissed at that. I really would. So I love that line. I love when they always say, anybody that talks about it, I hate being content. I don't want to be there just to collect a paycheck. I love it. So Cody did a very good job with this, and that was pretty much it. That was the Dynamite show tonight. It was the TNT Championship Tournament. We got Dustin putting his career on the line against Kip Sabian, or if he doesn't win the championship, I don't know if that means him retiring if he can't beat Kip Sabian or him retiring if he can't win the championship, because, I mean, just by the looks of it, anybody watching this program knows that he's not going to win the championship. I mean, there's no way he's going to get past Lance Archer next week, right? I don't know. If AEW wants to have some fun and wants to make this a little bit more unpredictable, they could certainly go out there and book Lance Archer to destroy Dustin Rhodes. But we'll talk about that when we talk about Dustin and Kip Sabian a little bit later. But that's the entire premise of the show, was the tournament. And with the current circumstances, I just feel like the tournament isn't as epic as it should be. And I'm still kind of leaning towards them not going with the obvious match, with the obvious choice, in Cody versus Lance Archer, because at that point, why would anybody give a shit? You know? Make it unpredictable. And also, another sidebar, love how Cody has not mentioned anything. This is what scares me about the predictability of this tournament. Cody has not mentioned one thing about Lance Archer. Not one thing about Lance Archer, not one thing about what Jake has talked about in regards to Cody, which kind of makes it seem like they are leaning towards that match for the TNT Championship. So we'll see what happens throughout the remainder of the tournament. So we got match number one. Match number one. Sammy Geuvara and Darby Allin. This is a rematch from their match at Revolution, which was, it was quick, it was intense, it was brutal, and I loved it. I loved it. Was it better than what they did at Revolution? Absolutely not, for obvious reasons. So we got this match to start, and right then and there, before Darby even got to the ring, Sammy took advantage. So Jericho was on commentary. He asked Tony Schiavone if there's been a bigger breakout star in AEW than Darby Allin since the launch of the company. I don't think so. This is what makes Darby Allin the perfect guy to win this tournament, in my honest opinion. Sammy launched himself onto Darby outside of the ring. This was before the bell had even sounded. Attacked him on the floor. Wrestlers at ringside were trying to really play up to this sneak attack before the bell had rung. Sammy then took a ladder from underneath the ring, bridged it from the ring apron to the barricade, and he placed Darby on top of the ladder. He leaped off the top rope and did a big splash onto Darby on top of the ladder. The ladder did not break. It looked like it sucked 1,000 times over. Darby obviously got, a pretty decent amount of pain in that situation. But my God, the way, you have to go back and watch this, the way Sammy G bounced off of Darby Allin on this spot was just unbelievable. Sick motherfucker is Sammy Geuvara, man. He doesn't give a shit. This is why everybody loves him. He will go out there and he will risk his fucking life to do something like this. He will always want to put on a good show. Sammy is the type of guy, just by watching him, some people might think it's a little bit risque. Some people might think it's a little bit over the top and not necessary, but he's the type of guy that every time he's in the ring, every time he's on a show, he's going to go out there and pretty much give off this vibe of, you ain't going to follow me, motherfucker. I'm going to go out there and do something that nobody else on the rest of this card is going to do. I'm going to do shit that nobody's going to be able to follow up. That's exactly what he did here again. And he kind of has made that a regular thing in every one of his matches. So, Sammy G, man, there's a reason why people love him so much, and this is one of the many reasons why, on top of his just unbelievable charisma, Sammy G is one of the best things about AEW. So, this one went 12 minutes. Darby, obviously with the ladder spot, he was on the defensive most of this match. Now, there was a moment in here where Sammy had his boot taken off. He was wrestling with one boot and one barefoot. He did a springboard cutter with one boot, and he scored a near fall on Darby Allin. Darby surprised Sammy with a ankle lock, and then Sammy was obviously selling the ankle injury. They zoomed in on Darby, who seemed to be busted open. I don't know what from, but we had the referee put gloves on. Aubrey put gloves on. Could not find out where Darby was bleeding. Jericho said it might be his hand, it might be his nose, it might be his ear. Could not see what was going on due to the face paint of Darby Allin. So they both got up. They were throwing elbows at each other, exchanging blows left and right. Sammy landed a spinning back fist to the face of Darby, landed a knee to the face. Darby kicked out at 2, then rolled to the floor. And we go to a commercial break. And right after the commercial break, the match continued. And just as soon as we got back, the match was over. Darby dove at Sammy through the ropes. A lope suicida. Meaning it's a low suicida or a low tope suicida because he dives through the bottom rope. Looked brutal. Sammy moved. Darby crashed headfirst into the ringside barricade. Sammy threw a knee at Darby, and Sammy cut Darby midair. Darby blocked a knee strike, applied his last supper leveraged leg lock for a 3 count, and Darby Allin wins and advances to the semifinals. He goes one-on-one next week with Cody Rhodes for the TNT Championship Tournament, and the winner of that match goes on to the finals. Now, a lot of people, I would be the first to say, man, what is with the losses accumulating on Sammy G's record? Now, a lot of you guys pinpointed to me on social media because I tweeted about the match. A lot of you guys were like, it's okay because Darby is Darby and he needs the win, and this is his tournament in my eyes. And Sammy G, you know, it's good because he gets a lot of wins on Dark. He gets a lot of wins on AEW Dark. Now, I don't watch Dark. I should watch Dark, but I don't. But Sammy G losing here is not that big of a deal to me because of the way he lost. Now, if you guys watch, or if you're going to go back and watch, you're going to see how Darby Allin was beat up this entire match. Got a very lucky, believable pinfall on Sammy G. So Sammy G losing this match in the way that he lost doesn't bother me whatsoever. Because I know for a fact that Sammy G looked great. Sammy G held his own. Darby got the upset victory here. And there will be another match. These guys seem like they're destined to fight forever. They are AEW's version of Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. These guys will fight again. And each time they fight, it's going to be a little bit more important. Next time they fight, it might very well be for the TNT Championship. Who knows? Who knows? This is not the end for Sammy G and Darby Allin. So him winning here in this manner, I thought it was great. And he goes on one-on-one against Cody. Now, does he beat Cody? I don't know. My instinct says no. He's not going to beat Cody. But Darby Allin, I think this tournament is his. This tournament was made. This belt was made for him. This is what we've talked about leading up to this when things were normal. Imagine Darby Allin with a mid-card championship or a secondary championship. If AEW had one, how great it would be for Darby Allin. He could go on to go one-on-one with Lance Archer. I think that would be great. Now, I don't know if Lance Archer is just going to go into his match with Dustin and kind of prove a point to Cody through Dustin, which we'll talk about. Maybe they have an unpredictable outcome there. Maybe Lance Archer doesn't go to the finals. Maybe he beats up Dustin so badly that they intentionally DQ him. Maybe it ends up being Dustin versus Darby Allin, and Darby ends up beating a battered and beaten Dustin Rhodes for the title. I don't know. So we'll see what happens, but Darby Allin is in the semis against Cody. Should be a good one, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what those two guys do, because the last two times that they've been in the ring, it's been some good stuff. So I expect the same from Darby and Cody next week. Now, we move on from that to Broken Matt and him talking about Chris Jericho. Last week, we had a scene from the Hardy compound. Matt Hardy cut a promo wanting a elite deletion with Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho on commentary, he did not mention Matt Hardy at all. And we have Matt Hardy again from the Hardy compound talking about a proposal to Chris Jericho about an elite deletion. But he hasn't heard from Jericho at all. He disparaged the Bubbly Bunch segments. He just shit all over the Bubbly Bunch. And he talked about Jericho spilling the juice that is orange all over his kitchen counter last week. He said he welcomes Sammy G, to fight Jericho's battle for him instead, but warned him that he will mash him up and eat him. He said he will sentence him to deletion. He said he understands why Jericho didn't want to mention his name, because he doesn't know how to handle my broken brilliance, he says. He offered for Jericho to speak to his other entity, the mortal vessel that is Matt Hardy, the Unbreakable. Then they went between regular Matt Hardy, back to broken Matt Hardy, back to regular Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy, good old regular Matt Hardy, was seen in this scene, talking about how he and Jericho have been through a lot. He said he was friends with the Bucks and Cody, and he respects the hell out of Omega, and he understands why Jericho resents his arrival to AEW. He said he wants to knock the pillars of AEW over so he can take over. He said he can't let that happen. He said AEW is a platform for the future, trying to keep the business alive and healthy for future generations. He said Sami reminds him of a young Jericho, and he will keep kicking everyone's ass in the Inner Circle until he gets to Jericho, and I am going to kick your ass, he said. So obviously Jericho had to say something in regards to Matt Hardy this week. Jericho said he better shut his stupid ass up. So that's all he said in regards to Matthew Hardy. So we go from that to Kenny Omega versus Alan Ingalls. No, that's not right. Alan Eagles. No, that's not right either. Nia Jax? No, that's not right either. Can you imagine that? Nia Jax versus Kenny Omega. Kenny's career would be ended with Nia Jax. Alan Angels was his name. Oh. I didn't know who Kenny Omega was facing because Jericho gave this guy like 16 different fucking names tonight. Jericho talked about Omega. So the first time he faced Omega, it was a classic. Great match. I loved it. He said every time he wrestled Kenny, he has defeated him. Now, we all know that's not true, but he's still intimidated whenever he faces him. Jericho said Kenny is the second most famous wrestler from Winnipeg. Jericho then talked about Kenny spending time in Georgia in development, quote unquote, and said they, of course, didn't use him properly. And here he is, one of the greatest in the world today. So I'm assuming he's talking about FCW or some type of WWE-related territory where Kenny was in the WWE. And obviously they released him, and then he went on to be the best wrestler in the world. according to some. Very subjective topic there. So he then proceeded to call him, and I wish I could call this to everybody when I do commentary for House of Glory, a pumpkin-headed dipshit, but I wouldn't be doing my job as a play-by-play. I'm not the heel in that role. So he called Omega a pumpkin-headed dipshit. So that's that. Gotta love it. And like I said, he continued to call Alan Angels, Alan Eagles, Alan Ingalls. Said he had a little washcloth that hung off his ring attire, off his side. I don't know what Jericho was talking about, but obviously Alan Ingalls was not going to get the win over Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega gets the win here with a devastating V-trigger, and it went 6 minutes, which is something I really don't understand about Kenny Omega going 6 minutes with somebody named Alan Eagles. Now, or Alan Angels. Alan Angels is just merely being used because AEW is giving time to some of the developmental talent that came out of the Nightmare Factory that really can't go out there and get independent shows for themselves and get their feet wet. So they figured they'd use some of the students there that were kind of ready but not yet ready on Dynamite as enhancement talent for their top-tier guys. But in no way, shape, or form should Kenny Omega go 6 minutes with Alan Angels on AEW Dynamite. Doesn't look good for Kenny. It looks good for Alan Eagles here, but it doesn't look good for Kenny. And Kenny, I don't know what it is with Kenny Omega. He's got this attitude where he seems like he's too cool, and I don't know if that is going to help him in the long run, because what's happening with Kenny is he's not coming off as a legit guy. You know, he's not coming off as the top guy in the company. He's just there. He's just there. In some cases, I get why they're trying to put Kenny Omega in this situation. Oh, look, here's Kenny Omega. He's still the guy. You know, this is who we got at the top of the AEW hierarchy here in the company, right? But sometimes it's better, in my opinion, to not use guys like that and only use them in roles that are going to enhance themselves. I don't see this as a role that's going to enhance Kenny Omega to get to that point where everybody wants him to be as the top guy in this company. So going 6 minutes with Alan Angels is not going to get the job done. That's just my take on what we've seen here. Yes, it's great to see Kenny. I'm hearing that Kenny is hurt, per reports. I don't know if that's true or not, or the severity of it. So hopefully in this downtime, he's getting some R&R. But I get it. You want to portray Kenny Omega on Dynamite, but I also, in some sense, would rather him just be on the show when you need Kenny Omega to be there in the role that Kenny Omega should be in, not in an enhancement match against Alan Angels going 6 minutes on Dynamite. So let me know what you guys think about that. You know, he shouldn't be going 6 minutes with a nobody on Dynamite. That's just my take. And I mean, the way Jericho was talking about him, it came off on commentary as well that this guy was a nobody. So why is Kenny Omega the best wrestler in the world and going 6 minutes with Alan Angels, who's not going to amount to anything on Dynamite? So let me know what you guys think about that. Video feature down on Scorpio Sky. And this was great. And this was a to be continued as well. And I wanted to see more of this because Dynamite hasn't really given us any reason to care about SCU. And we all know that Scorpio Sky is the breakout guy in SCU. And the fact that they have not been on television, they want to get people talking about SCU again. They want you to think, oh, look, SCU's still around. They want SCU to be out there, up front and center, in some way, shape, or form. And what better guy to go back and do some history on than Scorpio Sky? So Scorpio Sky talked about discovering pro wrestling as a kid, and he always wanted to be a pro wrestler since. I never thought of doing anything else. I wanted to be a pro wrestler as much as I wanted air. And he said, kids growing up my age, you don't necessarily think about being a pro wrestler. You want to be a policeman. You want to be a fighter. You want to be a superhero, right? And here I am. I wanted to be a professional wrestler. He said his mom said he was special and there is a gift that he has that nobody else has. That always stuck with me, he said, and resonated with me and made me believe I'd get through any obstacle. He talked about having a bad back problem, a collapse of his L2 and L3 backspace. he was told that he probably wouldn't wrestle again. Said he woke up one day and his back didn't hurt much, and it got better and better, and then he went back to wrestling, and he hasn't looked back since. He said then a year passed, and then another year passed, and he just couldn't break through. He said he wanted to just be a pro wrestler so badly that he didn't want to give up, but he was at a point where, am I going to be able to pull through this? Am I going to be able to show everybody that I can do this? Am I going to get my break? Said he went to his mom's gravesite, and he asked her to show him what direction he should take. He said he then decided the next day to give pro wrestling one more chance after being so down on what had happened to him. Said he might fall flat on his face. Said he got one more chance and hit it out of the park. He said in December 2017, he joined SCU, and SCU was formed. And then we got a to be continued. So this is good stuff. This is exactly what they need to be doing with their TV time on TNT. They need to be showing things like this, especially if you're not using said talent like SCU. And we all know Scorpio Sky is the breakout guy in that group. There's no better TV time than what they did here. This was great. I'm looking forward to seeing more of Scorpio Sky and hearing his story. And that is going to enhance him when things hopefully get back to normal. This was good stuff. And I'm looking very much forward to hearing more about his history and why we should care about Scorpio Sky. Shivani was talking about Dustin and Sabian on the show tonight. They went to a clip of Dustin in a voice message to his brother Cody on speakerphone. If he loses this week, he's going to retire from pro wrestling. He said becoming the first ever TNT champion means everything to him, and to win at the age of 51 would be amazing. Said he talked to his wife last night that if he loses to Kip, he would retire. Cody looked distressed throughout this entire segment on Dynamite tonight, and he kind of knew where Dustin was headed with this entire situation. So I'm loving the fact that they're making it, or at least trying to make it seem important, but I kind of knew that tonight Dustin wasn't losing, so you knew it was them in a last-ditch effort to kind of build the show around Dustin Rhodes when we knew he wasn't losing tonight. It's all about going into next week. He's definitely losing next week to Lance Archer in the semifinals of the TNT Championship Tournament. Jimmy Havoc versus Orange Cassidy with Chucky T and Trent. I'm going to mention something about Orange Cassidy. I think I mentioned this last week, but I'm going to reiterate it again to you guys. It's almost in the same situation that Kenny Omega was in. Why put Kenny Omega in a situation? He's the best wrestler in the world, and you're having him go out there against Alan Angels for 6 minutes. Not really necessary. Not really doing anything for Kenny Omega's stock in AEW. Same thing with Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy's gimmick is a gimmick that relies 110% on live fan interaction. Now, I don't know when we're going to get live fans in the arena again for these shows. I'm not saying keep Orange Cassidy off the show, out of the ring completely, but I think after tonight, we kind of know that the gimmick definitely should not be in a situation like we've seen it tonight. The gimmick doesn't work when there's no fans in attendance. I don't know why you would lessen the impact that Orange Cassidy obviously makes in the ring and to this company on this show by putting him in a situation against Jimmy Havoc, and the gimmick is missing. It's like 50% of Orange Cassidy was missing tonight. It doesn't work. Why would you put him in a situation knowing it's not going to work and put him in a situation where it kind of makes him on par with everybody else at that level? Orange Cassidy is no better than a Kip Sabian. And on a normal night, we all know that he is. He's no better than a Jimmy Havoc. On this night, he was as ordinary as a Jimmy Havoc. On a normal night, we all know that he's better than that. And the same could be said for most of this roster because he's the most over guy in the entire company. And on this show, he was made to look ordinary. I don't think I want to see Orange Cassidy wrestle in a situation like we've seen tonight. Not until things get better. He doesn't deserve that. The gimmick doesn't deserve it. And we as fans don't deserve it. I don't give a shit how Orange Cassidy is portrayed by somebody watching at home. It doesn't work. Live wrestling in that atmosphere with Orange Cassidy is some of the best shit that you could watch. This situation, it's depressing. It really is. So, this one was all about Penelope Ford and Kip Sabian. Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc, they got this thing going on with the best friends, so they are continuing this going on into next week. And it all came to a head with Penelope Ford during this match. Penelope Ford got on the ring apron. She tried to distract Orange Cassidy. She could distract any man with a cock and balls between his legs. That's no question in there. But Chucky T came over, and he seen Penelope Ford wanting to interject herself into this match. So Chucky walked over, and he grabbed Penelope by the boot, tried to knock her off the ring apron. Instead of falling down and taking a bump on the ring apron, she did a split on the ring apron, which made a lot of people at home very happy, I'm sure, including Kip Sabian. He was so excited that he dove over the top rope, came in from the opposite side of the ring, came into the ring, dove on top of Chucky T and Trent on the opposite side with a big senton. Jericho made a reference that he did it all with his sunglasses still on. He's like Indiana Jones. His hat never comes off. Really good stuff there by Jericho. Ford leapt off the top rope at Cassidy. Cassidy ducked. Cassidy then rolled up Havoc for a 3 count. After the match was over, Havoc and Sabian attacked Cassidy. Jimmy Havoc leveled Orange Cassidy with a devastating DDT. Chucky and Trent made the save after the DDT, and both Kip and Havoc fled. Jericho said the best friends should mind their business. He said Cassidy is laying in a heap of his own pulp. So there you go. That was pretty much Jericho throughout the night. So we got this match set up for next week. It's going to be Jimmy Havoc and Kip Sabian versus Chucky T and Trent Beretta of the best friends in a, I believe, no DQ tag team match. So that's that for next week. MJF stood in front of his palatial estate. Now, he said he was in Cape Cod, which I doubt he was. I'm assuming he was in Long Island, where he's from. The screen said it was Max's Rat House in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. He said the world has changed as they know it and shaken to its core. He said mankind may have never been through such a depressing and debilitating time. He says it's all because of his absence. Not because of the virus. Because of MJF's absence, we are going through such a depressing and debilitating time. I would have to agree with him. I would have to agree. He says it's all because of his absence. He said fans have been craving him. He said he told himself he wasn't going to cry. He said on his last Dynamite appearance, he suffered a dangerous, career-threatening injury. He said while gambling at ringside, he suffered a serious hangnail while throwing his cash. Like a valiant warrior, I gambled until the show's ending. He said the injury became life-threatening thereafter. The camera then moved back and showed his arm in a sling. He said he will rise from the ashes like the Phoenix and become their AEW World Champion because I'm MJF and I'm better than you, and you know it. So there you go. It could be AEW throwing you a little tease as to what's coming with MJF. I don't know yet. Or it could just be that they needed MJF on this show because where the fuck is MJF, the fans have been asking. So they had MJF film a promo via his iPhone, and there you go. They plugged him into the show. But MJF is, I believe, undefeated in AEW, so just by that statistic alone, it would make him the number one contender for the AEW Championship. But then again, I'm thinking, if MJF is the number one contender for the AEW title, do I want MJF versus Jon Moxley in an empty arena with no fans? I don't think so. I don't know who Moxley is going to go up against and defend the title at Double or Nothing against. I don't know. They really haven't done anything. That match with Hager was a one-off. Could they be moving on to MJF? And if they do move on to MJF, does MJF win the world title? I don't know. I don't know. The situation that we're in just makes everything just feel less impactful than it should. We could be sitting here under normal circumstances with a live audience on Dynamite tonight, and we could really be getting MJF versus Jon Moxley, and I could be sitting here telling you Jon Moxley's going to lose the title to MJF. Because why the fuck not? Why the fuck not? But I don't even know at this point. I don't know who he's defending the title against. I don't know if I want to see the MJF match now. I don't know. I don't know. We're going to need somebody, and there really isn't anybody at this point. It's either MJF, in my eyes, or nobody. So we'll see what happens with Double or Nothing. That could be a nice little tease or a little seed planted for Double or Nothing and Moxley's next title defense. And Moxley was advertised for next week, and he's going to address the state of the AEW Championship. Speaking of MJF, his boy Wardlow was committed on a crime tonight against Lee Johnson. This was an absolute destruction of Lee Johnson. This one went 2 minutes, and Wardlow threw this guy, spun him around so many times that I think he is still spinning in midair. Lee Johnson was destroyed by Wardlow in 2 minutes, and that was pretty much it. Wardlow gave Lee a knee to the head as Lee fell off the top rope. It was almost like a top rope, just go to sleep. And then Wardlow dropped his straps and then released him in a airplane spin. A huge airplane spin that, like I said, he's still spinning. 1, 2, 3, and Wardlow wins in 2 minutes. So, good to see Wardlow on Dynamite, and he reminds me a lot of, and I know a lot of people are probably going to hate me for saying this, he reminds me of Ryback. I don't know why I thought Ryback tonight, but much better than Ryback. Much better look than Ryback. Wardlow could be something big in AEW, and I've been very impressed with the match with Cody in the steel cage. I love his version of destruction. This is exactly what I want to see out of Wardlow, and this is the type of guy that I would love to see around guys like MJF. MJF is in good hands with guys like Wardlow. That's what I got out of this segment. He's in very good hands with Wardlow if he could take care of guys like Lee Johnson the way that he did tonight. We got a Brody Lee segment on Dynamite. Brody Lee, a.k.a. Vince McMahon, on Dynamite, showed a headline in the Pontiac Times saying a leader for the Heisman Trophy suffered an injury. Then this person went to the Dark Order website, entered a message about how he needs help and a new direction in life. So they cut to Brody Lee speaking at the camera. We didn't see who this person was, or how tall he was, or where he was from, what he looked like, or anything. He asked this individual, who we did not see, how tall he was and how much he weighs. So this guy said he's 6'2", and 240 pounds. He said he played college football. Brody said a lot of people in AEW didn't work for their success. He said Uno told him he's a hard worker who just hasn't gotten a payoff for that work. He said there are people around AEW who are afraid of success, but he's not. He said they are the lions of AEW, and he wants to offer him a chance at success. We feed on the prey, he said. So he slid this guy a mask to wear. You are home now, Brody Lee said. You are one of us. You are the Dark Order. And then he leaned back in his office chair, smiled, and that was the end of the segment. I love the visual of this segment. I love when Brody Lee leaned in, talking to this guy. We seen the shadow or the darkness of the scene, and then when he leaned back, we seen his eyes just covered just ever so gently in the lamplight or the illuminated room that he was in. We just seen his eyes. It looked great. It really looked great. So I don't know who this person is. I don't know if this is going to play into a storyline or whatnot, but Brody Lee is obviously pushing his weight around. He's showing his allegiance to the Dark Order. He is the leader of the Dark Order, and this is one of the things that it makes me wonder what would happen with Brody Lee and his introduction and what these segments would be in front of a live audience, right? This has been good stuff. I commend Brody Lee for taking all of his frustrations and playing and modeling his character off of Vince McMahon and what he's been told and what he's seen and what he's gone through personally, right? He's just taken what he's been through in WWE and molded it into a character to lead the Dark Order, and he's using Vince McMahon-isms. He's using things Vince McMahon probably believes in, and he's using the likes and dislikes of Vince McMahon and playing it off on his own, and it comes off very well. Comes off very well. Can't be easy to do if you're Brody Lee. Can't be easy to do. But it makes me wonder what would happen if all of this was actually under normal circumstances. How over they would be, how over he would be, if we would have seen a little bit more of the Dark Order, what they're holding back. as far as the Dark Order and where the storyline should be at this point in time. It just makes me wonder a lot about that. And it makes me wonder where they're going to go with the group when things start to normalize in pro wrestling. So, Brody Lee, loving what he's doing. I think these segments have really done a very good job at portraying who he is. And his in-ring work, I mean, he barely has had to do anything. He's a big guy throwing his weight around. We know what he can do. And he took care of Justin Law tonight. Absolute decimation. So we got two squashes back-to-back. We got Lee Johnson destroyed by Wardlow. We got Justin Law destroyed by Brody Lee. And that was it, man. Nothing but a huge super kick and a lariat that nearly took his head off. And Brody Lee wins against Justin Law. He goes outside the ring, and he stares down Marco Stunt. And then obviously, you know Marco Stunt was just looking at Brody Lee like, dude, what the fuck? You didn't have to be that vicious to the guy. So Marco Stunt stood up to Brody Lee. Brody Lee looked at him like the child he is, walked away. And what do you think we got booked for next week, folks? Brody Lee versus Marco Stunt. I can't wait to see what Brody Lee does to this small, puny child, Marco Stunt, on Dynamite next week. We got the Bubbly Bunch. The Bubbly Bunch, episode 2. This is what we got during the fucking pandemic, folks. The Bubbly Bunch. This was the best Bubbly Bunch we've seen so far. Even though we just seen 2 episodes, this was the best one of the 2. They were doing the Flim Flam. Now, I don't know what the fuck the Flim Flam is. I never heard of the Flim Flam. Is this something you kids are doing on TikTok nowadays? I don't know. Sami was doing arm curls. Of course he was. He says he's been super down lately because he wanted Jake Hager to win the AEW title. Ortiz says he has to focus on the positives. They showed the Grinch stuffed animal that was sitting next to Ortiz. Hager said Sami is far too beautiful to be looking so sad, and sadness is for ugly people. Hager said next time he faces Moxley, it'll be on site, so he can't cheat to win. Jericho then gave Sami a pep talk while standing above his Roomba. It looked like the Roomba was good on to go. And then one shot was Roomba with his cover off. I don't know if you guys picked up on that. Roomba looked like it was Charlotte Flair drained on battery in one scene. And then it looked like it just came off the conveyor belt and we got a brand new Charlotte Flair. I don't know what was going on there. It was like they shot it 2 different times. He had the Roomba the way it should look, and then one scene looked like it had the Roomba with its mechanism showing. Again, I don't know if you guys picked up on that, but it was just very weird. Anyway, not here to talk about fucking iRobots. Jericho gave Sami a pep talk standing above his Roomba. Santana suggested a Flim Flam video. Sami was still sad. I'm sad every Friday night, so don't worry about it, Sami. Jericho said the winner gets a bottle of hand sanitizer. That pepped Sami up. Jericho then danced with everybody in the inner circle. We seen Jericho dance. We seen Hager dance. We seen Santana dancing on top of what looked to be the roof of the building he lives in. Ortiz was dancing in his room with the stuffed animals. And obviously Sami, being Sami that I mentioned earlier, wanting to outstage everybody, even in the fucking promo, even flim-flamming, he just blew everybody out of the water, doing flips and dives and poses and this and that. And Jericho was so hilarious here. He asked, Jesus fucking Christ, Sami, do you gotta show off every single time? Here's your fucking hand sanitizer. He threw the hand sanitizer at the phone, and he was bitter about losing, and he declared Sammy Guevara the winner of the Flim Flam contest. This was great stuff. This breaks up the monotony of the shows, and I love seeing all of these guys' personalities just shine. This is what I love, man. This is why the Inner Circle is so great at what they do. This was great stuff. And Sammy G, again, showing you why he's the best thing on Dynamite. And in the final match of the show, folks, Kip Sabian with Penelope Ford versus Dustin Rhodes with Brandi Rhodes. This is the last quarterfinal match of the TNT title tournament. Winner of this match goes on to go one-on-one with an eventual loss to Lance Archer. Jericho said this is the end of Dustin Rhodes' career here on Dynamite. Now, we all know that's not the case. Dustin was not going to lose here on Dynamite for 2 reasons. 1, this is not going to be his last match in an empty arena. Number 2, makes no sense for Kip Sabian to go one-on-one with Lance Archer. So, come on. But they needed something to sell the show on Dynamite tonight. Dustin controlled. Then we go to a commercial break. Sabian controlled after the commercial break. Dustin made the babyface comeback. Jericho said if this was a full arena, Dustin would have the fans to feed off of the energy of the fans, but it doesn't have that in this pandemic scenario. WWE is afraid of mentioning anything pandemic with the prior circumstances or the current circumstances, they say. And here Jericho is mentioning pandemic scenarios. Very interesting there. I guess he doesn't give a shit. It is what it is. He's being a realist, is Chris Jericho. Jericho says he doesn't need fans because he'll win a match no matter what. Dustin scored a snap power slam for a near fall forward, and Brandi got into it at ringside, and then into the ring where Brandi got in a spear. Dustin then landed a, destroyer. I was going to say a Mexican destroyer, Canadian destroyer, because we've been seeing destroyers all over the place. Dustin landed a Canadian destroyer for a 3 count, and Dustin wins in 14 minutes to advance to the TNT Tournament semifinals against Lance Archer. No surprise there. Lance Archer versus Dustin Rhodes makes much more sense than Lance Archer versus Kip Sabian. Now, the ending of this match was kind of silly because Brandi and Penelope Ford were in the ring, and they got into it, and I believe Aubrey Edwards was doing the officiating again here in this match. She had Kip Sabian in the corner, and, you know, it's amazing how ridiculous AEW makes their officials look. Brandi Rhodes and Penelope Ford were in the ring. There's no way you could possibly sell me on the fact that Aubrey Edwards, in her seniority role as official here at AEW, did not hear banging and bouncing and anything going on behind her. She's got one of the individuals in this match, cornered, and she is being distracted by him so that Penelope Ford can give the opportunity to Kip Sabian to win this match. But Aubrey Edwards doesn't think that, Dustin Rhodes is the other one in this match. I hear something going on behind me. Let me turn around and see what's going on. She didn't bother to turn around. She didn't turn around at the slightest of noises going on around behind her. It's just ridiculous. The AEW officials look absolutely ridiculous in this situation. It's like they got the IQ of a fucking crayon box. Like, what the fuck, dude? Aubrey Edwards is I said this last week, Aubrey Edwards is your senior official. You need to make sure she is on top of everything. She should not be treated like fucking Joe Schmo, regular A referee. Come on, you gotta do better than that. Now, Dustin Rhodes wins here. He goes on to face Lance Archer. We got Cody and Darby, Dustin and Lance Archer. I would assume Lance is going to win and Cody is going to be Darby. We're going to get the finals to happen at the pay-per-view. We're going to get Cody versus Lance Archer because that's what they've been building up on TNT. Now, if they want to go about it in a way where they could, I would say, get the match on the pay-per-view anyway and give, Darby Allin the title, they could certainly do that if they wanted to. The only thing is, if they go with that scenario, then Darby Allin really doesn't have anybody to defend the title. I guess he could defend it against Sami. Here's the scenarios that I'm going to lay out for you before we get the hell out of here. If Cody and Lance Archer wins, it's very predictable. And that's the finals of this tournament on the pay-per-view. That's going to be very predictable. Now, who wins there? I don't know. I would say the heel has to go over in that situation, and the heel be the champion with the babyface chasing. Okay, that's scenario number 1. Scenario number 2, we could still get Lance Archer and Cody Rhodes at the pay-per-view because of what Jake Roberts has been saying about Cody and his wife. So, the match itself really doesn't need the championship. They could book the match without the championship being on the line just based off what we've been seeing with Lance Archer and Jake the Snake Roberts anyway in their verbal berating of Cody Rhodes. They could get the match on the pay-per-view without the title being on the line anyway. Darby Allin, if he beats Cody Rhodes, maybe Lance Archer interjects himself in the match. I don't know. Maybe Darby Allin goes over. Maybe the fact that Lance Archer is a murder hawk and he's a killer, and that's the way he's portrayed on Dynamite, maybe he beats Dustin Rhodes so badly that the referee disqualifies him from the finals. Dustin Rhodes moves on, and Darby Allin, beating Cody, goes on to face Dustin in the finals. We have the finals happen on TNT. Darby Allin wins the championship. Darby can defend the title against Sammy Geuvara at the pay-per-view, while Cody goes on to fight Lance Archer because of what Lance Archer did to Dustin. So you got that story there to add more intrigue to the overall feud of Cody and Lance Archer. I'm just trying to think outside of the predictable bubble here, because my instinct says they're going to go with Cody and Lance Archer and have the title be on the line at the pay-per-view, but it doesn't need to be. You can do Cody and Lance Archer because of what Lance Archer could be booked to do against Dustin in the match in the semifinals. So if Lance Archer beats Dustin so bad to a point where he gets himself DQ'd, Cody's going to want to look for revenge, obviously, on his brother. So I don't know, folks. They got a couple ways to go about it. Let me know what you guys think about that down below. But other than that, folks, outside of the opening and outside of the ending, there really wasn't much on Dynamite at all on TNT tonight. And I just hope things get better, man. I don't know what happened on NXT. I doubt they were any better without the crowd, again, for what seems to be a situation that's never going to change. So we'll see what happens. But Dynamite and the TNT Championship Tournament is continuing on. And next week, we got the semifinals on TNT. Guys, I'm getting out of here. If you enjoy the podcast, let me know what you think down below. I wish there was more to talk about, but there really is not much to talk about in regards to Dynamite. There seems to be not a lot to talk about in general this week. So let me know what you guys think about my scenario down below. Let me know what you thought of the show down below. And I will see you guys right back here on Friday with OTS episode 323. Part number 1 on Friday afternoon, right before SmackDown on Fox. Until then, guys, take care, have a good night, and I'll see you right back here on Friday for more WWE content.